Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Trekyards. He is the incredible Commander Cockings.
He is Captain Foley. I mean, the captain itself shows how amazing you are because you've attained the rank that I've been avoiding or haven't got for so many years now. So, it says it all, Stuart. It says it all.
Perfect. All right. Welcome back, guys. Today we're here to talk about more Strange New Worlds goodness. Really enjoying the show so far. We're only in episode 2 at the time of recording this. Children of the Comet. But we are going to be looking and doing some comparisons of the actual spacesuits. As you guys know, we did see the original spacesuits from TOS in the Tholian Web. And
then again, Lower Decks last year.
Yes.
On the wall and graphics, so, they're there.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So these come a little bit before that, but they follow the modern kind of spacesuit vibe for Star Trek. So we're going to talk about them and compare them a little bit to see how close they are.
And it's funny because we're trying to sort of distance ourselves from the it's visual canon or not vibe. But I watched the Ready Room last week, or this week I guess, about the uniforms, and the costume lady kept saying we're trying to hybridize between TOS and Discovery because it evolves into that. She was extremely explicit, like in her mindset, there's a direct link. So if the costume people think there's a direct link, well, then we can approach that as canon. Because both these shows are canon, so at the end of the day, this is all canon, so this is the evolution and we can talk about it. So here's a spacesuit, Stuart. They come out of the elevator. They're all bulked up, and obviously the breakdowns will be more interesting in a second. But what's your first reaction now you can see them? Because we saw them in the trailer, but they were low res. This is proper res, full detail. How do you feel now?
I was pretty impressed with them, actually. The whole suit-up process, even seeing the phaser go into the holster. I was visually aware how similar they were to TOS, even though they look completely new and modern. Just the choice of the fabrics and the shapes on the helmet and the front part that's colored. There's a lot that visually, to my mind, without doing a side-by-side comparison, feels like the TOS ones. I do like these a lot better, obviously, but I was impressed to see them. So, and I know you like suits and or costumes and
uniforms,
stuff.
yeah.
So, what did you think of them? Yeah.
Well, I think they look nothing like TOS. I think they went super far away to the point of you wouldn't tell they were TOS at all. Especially if you weren't on Strange New Worlds, you would think, well, that's just a spacesuit, But we'll look into comparisons in a minute and find the subtleties. Because first look, no, not TOS at all. The thing I like most about it is the pop of colour on the communicator and the breastplate. So they kissed them earlier, but the fact is this isn't in a vacuum. This is linked to Discovery explicitly, and the next shot is without the Discovery reference, which we'll get to in a minute. So this is the two comparative versions. I do miss the free float props. It's so much more advanced feeling than a holster. Personally, I kind of wish they go back to that, although, they do fall down, and obviously they're doing more action things in these suits than the TOS guys did, so I can see why it's less practical. But this is the direct comparison, and apart from that middle chunk, which is sort of there if you squint, I don't see anything else that ties them.
Well,
directly anyway.
As I was saying, the sides of the helmet, they got a lot thicker, especially from the front, which kind of ties in. If you're going to evolve into the TOS ones,
which is canon,
it just gets bigger with more headroom, I guess. So that looked cool to me, and the little things they have on the inside of the glass, the little, I don't know if they're voice things or whatever, but not really needed, but they were a nice addition here, I think. But yes, that shape on the front with the pop of color definitely has the vibe. And I think even the silvery kind of honeycomb fabric they use reminded me more of TOS before I saw a side-by-side comparison, but still, in my mind, it felt very TOS-like when I first saw it.
I'm going to save my actual review until we get to the broader breakdown, because that's only fair, because I want to talk about it in context with everything else, because that's important here. So I'm just kind of being literal first, and then we'll go back. But certainly the colour is what really makes this thing, and now seeing the two, yes, TOS is quirky and silly, but it would have been nice for them to have more colour go across. I think I might say evolution, but to have maybe some arm colour go down. There's obviously spaces for that. That would have been kind of nice. And then it would have, if they just kept the colour moving through the uniform, I think that, you see on the trousers, there's those two lines that go down the silver ones. If they had been colour and the arms, I think that instantly would have really helped, because you're like, oh wow, there's just colour everywhere. Although it shouldn't have been red though, because I know it's the division colour, but then just lots of red would look very Like the multicolours, I think, really what allows the TOS to pop. But anyway, those are my vague comparisons. The next view, though, is interesting because now we're going to go in time order because this is all canon. So Discovery 1 used... They did do a weapon version, which was black, and this version, Season 2, which was a spacesuit version. Now, when you see them side by side, it's clear... Oh, it's just the same spacesuit almost entirely. They just reused the prop element and repainted. So it wasn't actually designed for the show. And how does that affect now you're looking side by side?
Well, I mean, they based the Discovery ones also off the TOS ones somewhat. So, like, you can see a difference in the chest plate. The color doesn't go up as far on the one shoulder. But other than that, I mean, yeah, they're pretty much identical with a few changes here and there.
Which is smart of them, use the same pieces, don't sell them. These are going to cost, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 each. Save them.
I did think the helmets from Stranger Worlds were a lot different, though, but they're not that different. I think they thickened them up a bit, it looks like, almost, but...
Honestly, I think it's the color choices. By having the variations in lighter colors, it helps the shadows pop, whereas here, on Burnham's, all the arms being sort of the same grey, blacky color, it just feels like shoulder. Whereas there's so much more textural feeling detail on the Stranger Worlds one compared, even though they're probably about 85-90% the same design. Just those small things, so the colours come back in, the lightness, the freshness, and that red obviously colour, that colour is essential here, and the fact the belt is now a nice, more circle, but it really is almost identical, even to the point of, so they didn't really design a new one. It's just those small changes just help lighten it and make it feel more appropriate. But it
is only like a year or two after Discovery, so there wouldn't be
six months over they actually lost Discovery, so it's literally the same set of stuff. And Burnham only wore these once the Enterprise crew came on board, so there's kind of a sense of like, oh, this is, I guess, their pick of the next shot. Though, this is the really, really interesting one because this is it in the canonical lineup, going through the eras up until later. Now, this is when you start to see a holster did appear, according to this graphic anyway, which is from the Star Trek magazine. So there was a holster, which does make sense in now to kind of retroactively look that in, that kind of adds. And now you've got the big broad vibe. And you've got to also remember that the spacesuit in TOS was only used in the inside of the ship. And so you could probably make a slight extension, say it's more of a environmental suit. Hence the thinner materials. You're not going to be out in the vacuum. You're only going to deal with... I was used a couple of times, but not for outside in space because it'd be too expensive. So it'd be an interesting retcon to kind of do that and make a proper TOS one. Because it is still canon. It's still, they call it a spacesuit, I believe. But here's the lineup. How do you feel seeing them all together?
Better, actually. The TOS one looks better, kind of represented that way. I wish it was thicker material. But aside from that, I mean, it's a kind of a cool look. I do like that they carried over certain elements, like the blue thing on the TOS one. It's kind of like right here where this thing is on me. Has the dots, like the 4 dots, which is carried over on the two previous ones. Small little visual things like that.
I mean, that's not on McCoy's one, but it's probably on a different version then. Oh no, it is. It's really subtle though. Gosh,
it is on McCoy's one.
If they're not lit, you can't see them. So that really helps if they're visible here. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. One thing I was waiting for was them to push the communicator button to talk. Not a big deal, but no, I think this is interesting. TOS is obviously the outlier because it was early. They didn't think there were going to be more shows after this. There's a lot of wouldn't be in syndication, wouldn't be popular like beyond the network. And I don't dislike the TOS ones. A lot of people make fun of them. Whatever. I think they're kind of cool.
All you have to do for TOS is refine the helmet slightly and integrate the piping into like a plating in the arms. That's it. Apart from that, it's good. Like it pops in its own unique way. But certainly, if you then
the fabric,
well, slightly, or at least add variation to it. I mean, if it's meant to be an environmental suit, then the fabric's absolutely fine. But in this context, certainly the breastplate matches better with the future ones. Although I'm now missing the popping of color in the TMP one, ironically. But certainly it then falls more into that.
Yeah, and I love how the TMP one actually, if you look at the helmet shape, actually leads into like first contact and stuff as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But no, I kind of wish that, obviously, this is a more TOS-ified Discovery one, and apart from them costing 50,000 each, I'm excited to see what they would do for a TOS version, utilise more of the pieces. I think we've kind of said it's an environmental suit. How would you then take the bolder colours, more of the piping, incorporate that back in and kind of a... Because just updating the helmet, making it a bit more of the shape. Because rather than being curved, because none of these suit... Well, ironically, only Wrath of Khan has a really curved helmet, and it's a fishbowl. Everything else kind of has that structure, whereas the Discovery ones are always very, very curved and smooth. If you replace that with a slightly more structural-looking helmet, that I think would make a big difference. That, and some more colour. It wouldn't take much to make this a very much more literal-feeling equivalent. So hopefully they'll do that in season 3 or 4.
Speaking of, one thing I did notice is that they actually took their helmets off, held them under their arms, put them on the ground. They didn't do the hit the button and have it disappear into the back in Strange New Worlds.
Was that a thing in Discovery? 'Cause it wasn't the future version.
It was, sadly. Yes. Which is more realism for me than having the... Like, that's really cool and all, but...
It's not very Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly.
It's literally Stargate.
Yeah. But you notice they did take their helmets off. Spock was holding it under his arm, and then later you see them sitting on the ground near Kirk. So I thought that was cool. I prefer that, honestly. So kudos to them for that, at least.
Because the canon is their helmets. They've never and will never in the Prime main be that. I mean, although they did note their helmet face shields were up and they went down. Those things were inside the unit. They kind of clipped down at one point. Which is quite subtle, but it is their type, Okay, I mean, yeah, if you click a button, it goes up, yeah. Easy to breathe. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I quite like that.
I also like the back part as well. Kind of built up back part with like the lights on it. Didn't have it in TOS, but like I like what you said though about that being more an environmental suit or like a hazmat suit than a space suit, which made sense when they were going over to the Defiant and Tholian Web, and then the ship disappeared and poor Kirk was floating in space with it. Not really made for it, but you can survive in it. But yeah, I don't think we ever really saw a real space suit in TOS, so that's interesting.
But in terms of what I think about it, I do think it's a marked improvement over the Discovery one just by the colour choices. It's amazing how radical that does. And they do look good in it. I was less sold by the trailers, but the way they use it works well. And the lights are less obtrusive, because in Discovery they're very bright to the point of flaring, and it just feels over the top. These, I think, were better balanced in the show. I didn't get annoyed by them. Just all the lights have been just toned down a bit in this show, and certainly having the classic props on the body makes a big difference as well.
No, kudos to the Strange New World team. I think they did a good job with these, so I'm enjoying them. But guys, what do you think about these costumes, these space suits? We want to hear your comments, obviously. So comment down below, like the video, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to leave a super thanks on this video, you can do so. It's kind of like a super chat. You just put in $1 or $2, whatever you feel like, as a thank you, and it really helps out the channel. But there are a lot of other ways to help us out as well.
Like super chatting if you can, or being monthly on Patreon. Yep, or join the channel on YouTube, or just really being here in the conversations, during this lives, in the chat, anything else with algorithms, and we will do want to have this conversation with you guys. What you think, what you want to see. And you never know if the designer of these outfits will see that. Let them know what you think of it in the comments down below.
That's right. So until next time, guys, he is Commander Cocking.
He is Captain Foley. Bye, guys.